Ready.
Ready? Okie dokie. Heary. The Improvement and Service Committee meeting for May 12th in the year of our Lord 2021 is now in session. The roll call. The chair, Chris Weary, is, even though he knows well, he does not, he's inexcusable, has an excuse to not be here. And the vice chair is now running the meeting. Alder Scannell present, Alder Gerlach.
I'm here.
And last but definitely not least, Alder Burnett.
Here.
All three are present. We have a quorum. Let us move on to our agenda. I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alder Burnett, seconded by Alder Gerlach. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an agenda. That passes unanimously. I'll take a motion to approve our minutes from our last INS meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Gerlach, seconded by Alder Burnett. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Our minutes are approved, and I've slowed down here. I'll slow down. Let me know when you're ready for regular business.
No, you can go ahead.
Oh, okay. Number one, consideration with possible action on request by resident at 1604 Hillcrest Drive to extend the payback period and waive the interest for the water assessments associated with the Hillcrest Drive reconstruction project held at the April 28th, 2021 Improvement and Service Committee meetings. Staff?
I have not heard back from Mr. Dietrich at all. I know that Alder Brunette was also trying to get a hold of him. And at this time, I think I would recommend that we just leave it at the 5-year, and he can pay whatever he can, and then it will go to the 5 annual payments at the 3.77%, unless he wants to get his own financing.
Alder Burnett?
Yeah, I did speak to Mr. Dietrich, and I informed him he would have to apply for hardship. He would have to submit financial documents. It doesn't seem, a couple things. One, I don't think he wants to do that necessarily. And then second of all, he says he didn't receive the paperwork. And so I've kind of made that connection between him and Public Works. I'm helping where I can, but I think to remain unbiased, if we have to vote on a final decision, I don't want to get too closely involved. So what I would recommend is a receive and place on file, not have this on the agenda anymore. Mr. Dietrich wants to apply for the hardship. He should do so directly with Public Works, and I'll communicate that message with him again.
So that's your motion?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
going to receive and place on file.
Burnett made the motion. Alder Gerlach seconded?
Oh, okay, sure, I'll second it. I thought
Okay.
you wanted me to make the motion.
No, Jesse was speaking, so I thought, he can make it. So we have a motion by Alder Burnett to receive and place on file, seconded by Alder Gerlach. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Should I just keep rolling, or do you
Yep,
need some
you just
time
keep going.
for?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Regular business number 2, consideration with possible action on a constituent idea about improving fall loose leaf collection, referred to staff at the March 24th, 2020 Improvement and Service Committee meeting. Alder Burnett brought this forward. Do you want to speak on this, Alder Burnett, or should we kick it to staff and then open up the floor?
Yeah, what I would recommend is have staff do a brief overview and then I'll make a motion after that to open the floor.
Okay, staff?
And I will turn this over to Operations Manager Pierlot.
I did a draft, there's a 3-page summary report, if you will, memo to the Improvement and Services Committee and submitted it within the information packet. I don't know if anyone who's present at the meeting had a chance to take a look at it. A lot of it is just background on what rules are, if you will, federal, state, and local rules. But to put it into a nutshell, we have the city has a storm utility, stormwater utility. Okay, it's obviously it's the city, but it's a separate fund, not funded by our property tax dollars, but funded through a service fee, if you will, that's assessed and paid for with your water utility on the water bill. It's ERUs, equivalent runoff units, and that's how it's assessed, and that fund is built. It pays for stormwater system maintenance and upgrade, and the equipment to maintain it, and the people who work in that section, and the utility division, all that fun stuff. Well, the federal government says that the city, and we're one of 290, over 200 communities in the state of Wisconsin that have to meet stormwater quality standards. And you have to reduce your pollutants, which are phosphorus and just dirt runoff into the waters of the state, the rivers, lakes. In order to do that, the stormwater utility can get credit for doing different things from the feds and the state through the DNR. One of those things is if they have a program to help reduce by the runoff from the dead and decaying detritus that comes off of our trees and lawns, i.e. our yard waste. And in order to get the credit for that, there are three things have to happen. One is we have to have an ordinance prohibiting residents from placement of leaves in the street. We have to have parking restrictions that's kind of generalized. Basically, the parking restrictions are so we can, unlike Milwaukee or the bigger cities where you can park on the street 24/7, 365, it makes it more difficult to sweep. We have parking restrictions like the overnight, so we can sweep the streets, make sure we get that stuff off the street. And along with it, believe it or not, a policy stating that residents may place leaves on the terrace or in bags or piles for collection, but on the terrace. The proposal that we have was just to modify our existing ordinance to allow during the fall collection period, or in collection period. I'll just say collection periods because we have 2 yard waste collection periods. We're just finishing the spring one this week. That it has to remain. It can go in the street if it remains at least 3 feet away from inlets. Well, unfortunately, according to the feds, if the city's going to get credit for stormwater cleanliness reduction, it has to be out of the street, period. So it doesn't matter how far away it is or isn't. It has to be up out of the street with a shelter into the natural soil, not just you say water going through leaves and then making what we call internally we call leaf tea, and then that flows just directly over the concrete and asphalt and into the stormwater without having an opportunity to naturally filter itself from Mother Nature through soils or whatever. And here's a big part. Everything in the world boils down to money. The stormwater utility, because they're getting credit for that from the feds for maintaining that program, says, okay, then we will participate and we will pay, instead of the taxpayers paying for it out of their property taxes, the stormwater utility, funded by a different method, of course, but still will contribute. I think it's somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 to the actual activity, the operation of the curbside collection program that the city maintains and enjoys. So, if they can't get the credit, they won't give the money to the city, which means the city would have to find that money somewhere else. And I can tell you, we don't have that in our budget. So therein lies the rub where, okay, if that money goes away, DPW would not have the funding source to maintain our curbside yard waste collection process, kind of the old catch-22. So I appreciate and understand, from a professional and personal standpoint. I live in Green Bay. I do the same thing. They deal with it's not dying, but it goes dormant in the terrace area. When I pile the leaves and yard waste in the spring and fall. But unfortunately, that's the catch-22. There's a cost for everything type of issue here, that if we would allow the yard waste in the street during the collection periods, we would not have the money to do the collection. So unfortunately, from a professional standpoint and financial standpoint, we cannot recommend that the ordinance be changed because it would just basically kind of dissolve the whole program.
And bag up their leaves for we pick up. I thought we couldn't. We didn't. Do we collect bagged leaves?
You can bag leaves as long as the containers are biodegradable. So they, you'd have to get the special paper biodegradable bags. You don't see those a lot. I see them offered at certain lawn and garden centers online.
Okay.
We do get them occasionally at the yard waste center, whether I'm not sure if it's mostly people bringing them in, but typically, by and large, if people are putting their yard waste to the curb, they're not putting them in bags because all they can have to do is rake it to a pile. Why spend the extra money on containers? The container is called the earth. Just hold it up because we're gonna peel it off, pull it back off the curb and put it in the trucks and haul it away. So it's kind of like don't waste your money on the containers. Just pile it nicely and we'll take it for you during the collection period.
If I can make a motion to open the floor.
And I'll second it.
Motion by Alder Burnett to open the floor, seconded by Alder Gerlach. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the floor is now open. Please state your name and address and let us know what you're thinking.
Okay. I'm Paul Jancourt, 1045 Village Green Court, 54313. And I'm like, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. I want to start out, of course, by acknowledging Mr. Pierlot. I remember him from many years ago. He's a long-time city employee, and it's nice to see a familiar face. Congratulations on your longevity, Chris. We were hoping when this obscure ordinance, which really up until now has not been enforced, came to bear this past fall, that we didn't know, when I say we, several of the neighbors here on Village Green Court at least, didn't know in the fall we have just huge amounts of leaves. It's an old utrifying wooded area, and the leaves, the volume is just, we start around the 15th of October, and usually we're not done yet come deer hunting season, and that infamous work week when everything slows down. So it's a big problem. Now, depending upon the winter, if winter comes real early, we get early snowfall, we usually can't finish fall clean because of the snow and freezing. And so then we get so far, and then the rest lays there in our yards until spring. So then that makes a rather large spring cleanup. Normally, like this year, that's not the case. It hasn't been the case for the last few years. So it's fall is the biggie, spring, much less so. Problem is, we have so many leaves, and that we would have to go so far back, the terrace won't cut it in some cases because it's just that the volume is there. Unless you go so high, and then that tends to just, as you know, blow over and go into the street anyhow, because it's just, so us, myself included, have a fairly large yard. In my case, it's a half acre exactly. But the frontage on the street, the linear frontage, is very, very small. My lot is on the street, and then it fans out from there. We have many neighbors in the very same situation. And so it's very, very problematic. I must start out by, in my remarks, a compliment to the city and the crews, and the Department of Public Works, of course. And the last 4 or 5 years, the service for leaf yard waste removal has only improved. Each year seems to get better and better. A lot of that has to do with automation. A lot of it now is done smartly. And then too, they just seem to be organization much more efficient than they were in the past. And so it really has been working very, very well. They have been coming this past year just about once a week to collect leaves. And that's very good service. So I can't complain about the service. It's wonderful. But of course, they're picking it up now, they have been, off of a hard surface, which makes it quite fast. I mean, they're very efficient. They're here and they're gone in 15 minutes, and totally clean, and then followed by a street sweeper. So the service has just been terrific. But then when this sudden desire to enforce the obscure portion of the ordinance came about, it surprised us. I got to thinking about it all winter long, and we have a neighbor down the street for several years now, has been putting leaves on the street, but he keeps it 3 feet off the gutter. And I got to thinking that's really quite a smart idea. I mean, the gutters stay open, the water can run. And we also, of course, have to keep it away from the storm basin, the sewer, the storm sewer. But it really, so I'm really borrowing this guy's idea. I wish I could claim originality for it, but I can't. And so we talked about it, and I think it's probably a good idea. And we thought by limiting it only to those 4 or 5 weeks, I think it's 5 weeks for fall and 5 weeks in the spring. Otherwise, nothing in the street at all. Just you're back to the way the ordinance is. It's just those short periods, and once in the fall, once in the spring. We thought perhaps the city would compromise with us on this. I think it would be in the city's interest. I think they could continue to collect yard waste off a hard surface much, much more easily and much faster than off of yards. And of course, then there's a problem with yards, particularly with landscaped, grass, whatever, gardens, sometimes gardens, and irrigation systems, lawn irrigation systems are being put in increasingly. And I'm afraid that bringing in the sophisticated equipment that the city uses, whatever it is, I mean, be it brushes or is going to really tear up the landscape and certainly do damage to some of the hard structure there. So it just doesn't seem to be a practical solution. I understand, Chris, you did a very good job explaining that, and off the top of your head, I think that's wonderful. But I just think that it comes to a point where, is the juice worth the squeeze? And I was hoping that by limiting it to those few weeks in the fall, few weeks in the spring, that maybe the city would go along with that. And otherwise, we keep it off the street entirely, like we're being told. So that's really, it seemed like a real good idea. And if there's any way that the city could accommodate that, I think it would work well throughout the city. Because, 30 some years, we've been Tree City USA, one of them. And we've been planting trees, and we have a lot of trees. And they're beautiful. But there's a downside. There's maintenance, as you know, with trees. So that's really the gist of it. We hope we can get some help here. Otherwise, I think there'll be problems on both ends. Our end with trying to accommodate these leaves on the yard, and in the city's end, trying to pick them up, trying to collect them. So,
If I may, I just want to make sure I understand. There's basically two problems we're trying to address here. One is that there's too many leaves at once, that and it overflows into the street when you're piling it up. Is that when the machinery comes to collect, it can rough up the yards, so to speak?
yeah.
Would that
yeah.
be, am I accurate there? Is that the two problems we're really trying to solve here?
Well, yeah, there's volume is number one.
Mhm.
And then method is number two.
Okay.
And
All right, thank you. I just want to make sure I understood the
I think-
problems we're trying to solve, and that's basically it, correct? Those two?
essentially, that's right. Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the committee? If anyone else would like to speak on this, please state your name. and
You're asking
address.
from the committee, are you still looking for outside comments?
Certainly, yes.
All right, my name is Randy Griswold. I live at 10-4. I'm sorry.
Your address?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yep, just need your
All right,
address.
my name is Randy Griswold. I'm at 1041 Village Green Court, Green Bay. Ironically, I'm Paul's next door neighbor.
Yeah.
That happens to be a coincidence with, this happens to be a coincidence with regard to this meeting. Alder Brunette and I have had, and just so you know, I'm president of the Fridge Park Neighborhood Association as well. Alder Brunette and I have had several conversations about this issue over the last several months, once the notifications went out to the residents citywide with regard to the enforcement policy, I guess, that they want to start. The thing that was a little perplexing for us as residents is that if this ordinance policy has been in place for a number of years, it just seems to be interesting as to why all of a sudden it's being enforced now. That was kind of one of the first questions we had as residents. Secondly, as Paul indicated, there are a number of neighbors who have very narrow frontage, to the point that they just simply, if Paul were to pile all the leaves from his yard on his front, it literally would back up to the front door of his house. I mean, he has that many leaves. I would like to ditto what Paul says with regard to the DPW and the loose leaf collection. The people that have been doing it have done an exemplary job. It's been noticeably better the last 4 to 5 years, particularly as Paul indicated. And I've complimented Jesse on that as well. So my compliments to Chris and his department, for doing what they're doing with regard to that. I have spoken to all of the DPW workers that are up here during loose leaf collection periods, and at least within my cul-de-sac, and then some of the other streets that are neighborhood, to get their perspective. Right or wrong, they would prefer the leaves on the street. It's more efficient for them. It's easier for them. I mean, they're looking at it from their vantage point. So from an efficiency standpoint, it makes more sense dollar-wise to, move them out of the street quicker if they're on the street. Now, it seems to me, Chris, for what you're saying is that the overriding issue really here is the DNR and the state or the feds would really prefer that these leaves leach into the earth in terms of the chemicals that are then running into the storm sewer. Is that a fair statement?
Right, yes.
Okay. Is there a benchmark that the city is being judged at with regard to any change in stormwater chemistry relative to that leaching process? In other words, if we get it under a certain part per million, do we still qualify for that federal money? Or if we go above it, then we no longer qualify. Has a nothing established with regard to that stormwater chemistry, to your knowledge?
No, unfortunately, there's no good way for anyone in the country or world that we're aware of to measure that, because there's so many different inlets, so many different outlets.
So if that's the case,
so it's just a policy that the feds and the state say, if you do this, we'll give you 40% reduction. in your stormwater water
right.
quality, but this is what you have to do. And they don't, and
All right,
there's
but
no,
they don't
okay,
really
but
have
part of it will give you this.
Okay,
It's just the way the
it's either
law,
all or nothing.
yeah, the way the Fed rules are laid out. And just to answer your question, excellent question that Randy and Paul asked that I've answered it for many people, but DPW started enforcing, if you will. We have not written any citations, but we have been noticing people for the last 2 years of the stuff in the street. That wording has been in the ordinance for a long time. And fortunate or not, DPW has not been really enforcing it. We've just been trying to keep the city clean. The unfortunate part is that the city was served several years ago with what's called a notice of noncompliance. So basically, we got called on the carpet. Therefore, we had to do something about it. So we're starting with a public education campaign to get the word out. We're not issuing citations to violators. We're educating right now. We're hoping that the dream is, I don't want to issue citations. We just want to do the services. That's what Public Works wants to do, is to get the word out and to get people to comply. Honestly, as a person, we can all understand that we're never going to have 100% compliance, but we got to try and do what we can.
All right. I've talked to a number of our residents in our neighborhood, and my feeling and Paul's feeling is pretty consistent with a lot of the residents in this particular neighborhood. I can't speak for the citywide, but I can't imagine the other residents in the city would probably feel any differently than we are. The reality of it is you're dealing, a federal government and a boatload of money that we obviously can't walk away from. We understand that. And it sounds like there doesn't appear at this time to be any compromised position. At least that's what I'm hearing, from your department. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. We have a resident who will sell his home and move. He's been to a different community over this. He's told me that flat out. It's an isolated event. I hope it stays an isolated event, but they're that upset. So if any other way to work around this, any way possible, we would appreciate the city's efforts in that regard as a possible long-term solution to this, because it's going to upset a lot of people. It hasn't right now because they're in the learning process right now. A lot of them are probably not taking it real seriously. But I can tell you when they start getting the fines, Jesse or whoever the alders are in our respective districts are going to get a lot of phone calls. So I'm just giving you a heads up. Okay, that's my 2 cents. Thank you. And we did provide a photo of the leaves parked back from the curb. In fact, they happen to be the leaves in front of my house. I took photos and then forwarded them on to Jesse just so you could see what we were looking at. But parking the leaves off the curb apparently doesn't really seem to be the issue. The issue is the feds and the DNR wants the leaves to leach into, correct? That's really what they want.
Yeah.
Right. They want Mother Nature to have an opportunity to filter the runoff.
All right. Okay.
Any questions for Mr. Griswold from anyone? Is there anyone else here to speak on this? Okay, I'll take a motion to close the floor.
Move to close the floor.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Gerlach, seconded by Alder Brunette. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the floor is now closed. Alder Brunette.
Thank you, Mr. Pirlot, and thank you to my 2 constituents for speaking. Been working with both of these gentlemen for quite some time, as well as other people in my district. We'd like to think each of our districts is unique because they are. What makes my district, the 12th district, unique is it's heavily wooded in many of our neighborhoods. And there are also many cul-de-sacs. So Mr. Janquart's situation where he has both heavily wooded and on a cul-de-sac creates a situation where, if he can't put the leaves properly on his terrace without creating a big issue. Now, luckily, I would agree that Public Works has done an outstanding job with leaf pickup and spring waste pickup. I've seen it in my neighborhood just this spring. It's been a remarkable and incredible thing. Not that they haven't done a good job in the past, but I've noticed increase in the methods and the volume of times they collect. I guess what I would like to, and I understand completely the funding, anytime you have a higher level of government and they hold a lower level of government hostage with funding, it creates a real tough situation. I fully acknowledge that. I guess what I'm wondering is maybe it would be appropriate for the Public Works Department to think of some exemption or some application that homeowners can apply for to be exempted from the rules if they're in a situation like Mr. Janquart, where he has a very large lot, half acres with heavily wooded in the back with a very narrow curb. Mr. Pierlot, has that been considered? Obviously, if you create a hardship situation, if one neighbor does it and applies for the hardship and gets granted it, then other people who may not understand that those property owners did in fact get that approval from Public Works. Is there anything you can do? Can we refer this to you to explore that avenue?
I'm not aware that there's anything in the federal or state rules that allows exemptions. It can be explored. Have to go back to our utility division engineer who leads our stormwater quality charge for the city. Operations division, DPW, we collect and enforce. We're the, what do you want to call it? We're the brawn, but utility division is the brains behind it. Why we're doing it. I mean, like I said, it can be explored. I can't guarantee anything. I'm not aware of anything in the state or federal rules that would allow that.
I would be
Excuse me for
surprised.
interrupting. Olderdorf is trying to get in. She needs someone to let her in. She just texted me.
Oh,
There she is. I guess what I would like to do is to motion to refer. Well, first of all, does anyone else have any comments? I'll wait.
I got a few
I
things.
surely do.
Oh, Alder Gerlach.
You can go ahead first if you'd like. I have
No,
questions.
I'm the chair, so I'm laid back here. And
Oh, thank you.
Stop first.
Okay, I have questions. First of all, both of these gentlemen have indicated that the city was not enforcing this until this last fall. And Mr. Pierlot, you're saying that you've been enforcing it for 2 years in terms of notifying people. Nobody's actually been getting cited yet. Okay.
Correct.
So I just moved back to Green Bay in late 2018, and I got that book about all the rules for living in Green Bay. And so I read it, and it told me that I couldn't put my leaves in the street. So I never have. So I just want to go back and ask you, how long has this ordinance been in effect?
I can't tell you for sure. It's been a long time. It could be decades.
Okay. And now I want to ask you also, because I do see them come and remove the leaves from my front yard. Use this thing that's like about 3 feet wide. It's sort of like it looks like a metal cage, and it has stiff wire bristles all the way around. Is that the same piece of equipment they use everywhere?
Yes. Yeah, we call that a broom. It's just a homemade attachment to one of our, for our tractors to kind of sweep it, if you will. They're metal bristles, sweep it off the terrace.
Right. So I see them sweep it off the terrace, and I see them then the truck lets down the back end and they sweep it into the truck. Okay. So, I don't see that as doing any damage to my lawn or anything like that. Also, if I don't get my leaves out there in time, spring or fall, because, I got to do it all myself, I put them in boxes or bins or something, and I take them to the drop-off site. How many drop-off sites do we have?
The city has 2 drop-off centers, yardway centers, one on Hurlbut Street out by just off of Military Avenue, and the other one on East Shore Drive, quarter mile, half mile east of Dan's Avenue. And those are, except in the winter, they are open in the winter, but only on Saturdays. And not many people haul yard waste when they're snowing, but they are open on Saturdays in the winter.
Right. I use the one on East Shore Drive, and I guess I'm kind of strange, but I kind of think it's fun. I don't mind it at all. I would prefer the city pick them up, but if I don't get it out there in time, the city leaves me and I pick it up myself. So I don't quite understand this thing about the federal government holding us hostage, because this is what I'm concerned about. I see things in the street, leaves, branches, trash, and I see how it washes into the storm sewers. I don't know, is that what you call them? I don't know.
Yes, storm sewer.
Okay. And so I actually go around sometimes with a little miniature rake and clean them out in my immediate area because, it can't drain properly otherwise. But this is the thing. Is it really just the money or is it the water quality? Is there damage being done to our water?
Sure. It is the water quality. It's United States, what's it called? Hold on one second. It's an act, a federal government act of the federal government that was established. I don't have the year here, but it's called the federal government. I just had it here. It's like the United States Stormwater Act to keep the waters of the state, the United States, clean and clear as much as possible. And interestingly, I was reminded just recently, it's related to this, but I never thought of it this way. And the idea, I don't see it as us being held hostage. We're all in this together, if you will. Everyone, and it was a kind of a Star Trek kind of an analogy. But I was reading something related to environment, and they said on the spaceship called Earth, we are all crew members. There are no riders. So we all have to pitch in. So, if you want to say watering it down, we're all responsible for the maintenance of our planet. So that's where the feds come in asking everybody to pitch in and do their part.
And that's my concern. My concern is debris fouling our stormwater system. And my concern is the quality of the water when this all gets filtered through. And I know that it's inconvenient and it's a pain in the neck. And I don't have a half acre, but I have had a half acre in the past in my life. And so I know about raking all that stuff and getting rid of it and everything. But I just believe that our obligation is to take care of our environment. And someone said something about is it in the city's, it would be in the city's best interest to compromise with, and get, I just don't think so. I think that we have to take care of our water system. We have to take care of our stormwater sewer system, and we're going to have to do the hard thing. I absolutely do not believe we should be putting leaves in the street, ever. Now, Mr. Perlott, am I wrong?
From a managing our environment standpoint, by putting leaves in the street, you give them no opportunity to, and of course, you're not going to have 100% opportunity to leach any runoff if they're on the terrace. But if you put them in the street, it boils it down to closer to 0% opportunity. So we have to do our best to do our duty, if you will, to our environment. So to answer your question, Alderman Gerlach, yeah, it does no service to place them in the street with respect to helping clean the clear water runoff.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so for operations, so then you typically use the broom to pull it into the street and then collect it, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm trying to work on a compromise here. I don't know. So operation-wise, how well do you know what street, when you're going to be doing a street?
The only thing we can really tell, and this is not the first time this question has been asked.
Yeah.
I've been in operations division for coming up on 16 years, and it's pretty much an every year type thing, especially the last 2 to 3 years, it's been asked a lot. We can tell you at the end of the day when the crews report in what we have done and where we're going to be tomorrow. But that we're not going to say, but we can't tell you we're going to be on streets A, B, C, and D. And of course, it would be A through Z plus then double A through double Z, because you can, or pretty slow, depending on what's out there. We don't know that. So all we can tell you is that we're 50% done in the Wednesday routes. We don't report, okay, it's this route here in the Wednesday routes, it's the square that you see me in. We got this route done, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one in the Wednesday routes. It's just too complicated to, and I update through these, through the process, spring and fall, every day, the best we can report on the city DPW Facebook page, what we have done in round one done, round two, we're here, we got this done, and this is where we're working today. But as far as what streets and what areas specifically, that's asking a heck of a lot. That it would just be a logistical nightmare.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. If it'd be possible to say, we did this today, tomorrow we're going to do at least this street and that street, and if we could get that on the web, and if since we break them into the street anyway, if they did that the night before and had the leaves in the street overnight, I'm wondering if that would be some kind of compromise. I don't know if that helps them at all. So I need to hear from them. I don't know if that makes much of a difference to be able to have one day where you got everything piled up or almost piled up, and then you can put it into the street the next that night, and then grab the rest of what's on your lawn and get it to the curb. Or I don't know if that's helpful at all to the residents, and I don't know logistically if that's doable at all for the city. But that's the only kind of compromise I could think of, is where, since we put them in the street anyway, if we let them know and they put it in the street for us, that actually helps us go quicker, I would think. But we wouldn't want it in the street more than, 12 hours the night before. So I don't know if that works for the residents or if that works for the city. That's really the only kind of compromise I could think where it might work, where we're helping each other. But I don't know if that helps out the residents enough to address. They'd be raking pretty quick. You wouldn't have much notice to get all your raking done. You could have a bunch on the waiting to go on the curb, and then get that into the street, and then finish the rest to get it up there. If it gets, because it sounds like it's too much, and I know what that's like. I've got 5 oaks and a birch in the city here, on Dousman Street. So my terrace gets pretty high. I got to do it in a couple different waves. I can't do it all at once. So I don't know. And I'm assuming that would be for other streets as well. I mean, Dousman has done a couple of times. Are other streets done a couple of times too?
Yeah. For example, in spring, we're on our 5th round through the city right now. This week is the last round. Fall, depending on the year and the weather, we've done anywhere from 4 to 6 rounds. Yeah.
So maybe that's the only thing we can do for residents is bust it up and do half at a time. And I know the weather can make a problem. I got oaks and they don't drop their leaves very early. And sometimes there's a real small window, depending upon the crazy weather, to take care of it. So I see falls being real problematical sometimes. And I think that's when we get most of our, leaf pickup, is when they come off the trees initially. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a way we can help out the residents or not, but we definitely are concerned about reaching into the gutters. I mean, that's not only, that would go, that goes right into the Fox, right into the Bay, right into the Bay Beach, green algae, so that is a major concern for the city now that we're trying to get a beach going again. So if there's a way, do you think, Chris, that would be a possibility to at least look at to see if we can get coordinated like that, or is it just too logistically?
It can be discussed, but I'm not
hopeful.
I'm not so sure that the federal or state rules would allow anything like that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the other thing, I guess. Yeah. Okay, Alder Gerlach.
I have 2 more questions, please. One is, when you mentioned the possibility of if DPW would even be able to consider this. You mentioned the possibility of putting the things in the street the night before if you knew they were coming in the morning. Am I just making this up in my head, or is it a fact that if it would rain that night, that would cause a bigger problem? Because it seems to me it washes things into the sewers, and I mean, would that cause more of a pollution problem if it rained on those leaves?
Absolutely. The rainfall is the biggest enemy of leaching of contaminants.
Okay, my other question. I remember, and was I just dreaming, didn't Director Grenier tell us recently that since you started giving out these warnings last year, there were X number of infractions, and this year it was like 10% as many infractions or something? Could you speak to that, please?
Sure. When we started doing this, as I'm recalling just off the top of my head, there were 2 years ago, there were we issued over 3,000 notices. There are no citations, but just notices of, hey, we saw that you put your yard waste in the street. Please don't do a little of public education. This spring, we issued the last count that we had that I got off of our field reports was we issued only 538 citywide through 4 rounds. So it's gone down quite a bit. So it's 1/6 of what it originally was. That's a big difference. It's 1/6 is what, 16%?
Okay, so it does.
The big component is public education. We don't have a quote unquote public education department. There's 3 Ps. Here I go again. Paul's heard this a million times through his service with the city over his many years. There's 3 Ps of public. It's 3 E's. I'm sorry. E's. Education, and enforcement, and engineering.
Right.
The engineering is called the public works and doing the projects. Enforcement, police, parking. But education, there's no education department. That's all of our responsibility. And honestly, I'll be the first one to admit, DPW being egghead engineers, we have not always been good at educating. So we're trying to get the word out better. And I strongly believe that by sharing the information with the residents, people first. We're people first. That's a direct contributing factor in reducing these issues, from 3,000 down to 500.
So then what I would conclude is that when people are told that it really is serious and that they must comply, they are, for the most part, complying.
I see that, yes, and I agree with that statement.
Okay.
Alder Burnett?
I think if the state or federal government do not allow any exemption, then the decision is pretty simple, that we have no choice. I guess what I do, because there's really no rush now because spring is done, fall is several months away, but I would encourage the committee to hold and ask the staff to look to see if the federal and state governments allow any exemptions for individual property owners if they prove a hardship based on their property. So I guess my motion will be a simple hold until our next
And
meeting.
I will not second that unless I can ask Mr. Perlott if he already knows the answer to that.
I do not know the answer, but from my experience, all I can speculate is pure speculation. I can't give you an answer. Is that I'm not convinced, based on my general knowledge of dealing with this on a day-to-day basis in our system, that there is any way to do it. But we can ask the questions and get an answer.
So we have a motion to hold this while staff looks into the possibilities here. I'd also like to see if it's possible we can coordinate somehow. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, is there a second, Alder Gerlach? Oh, wait, Alder Burnett.
I want to hear what Alder Brunette has to say.
Well, I was going to say, again, what I'm saying is I think this was a very good discussion. the reason I want to hold is to get that information, because if we really are over a barrel, so to speak, and we have no choices and we've exhausted all looks into whether we can be exempted with certain properties, then that information would be really good to know to let our neighborhood associations know before fall. You know, because we'll get the same complaints, the same concerns perhaps in the fall, and I'd rather dispatch of this now with a few months before fall. If we get that answer from Director Pierlot or Mr. Pierlot, we can communicate that to the neighborhood associations. Mr. Griswold, I'm sure, would appreciate knowing that as a neighborhood association president. So,
Maybe we can do that on our website.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. So is there a second?
Okay, I think he's a reasonable man. I'm going to second it.
Yeah, I don't see any problem with holding this and seeing what we can do with it. I would be surprised if there's exemptions from the federal level, but it doesn't hurt to look into it and see what else we might be able to do. It doesn't hurt. So I certainly support that. Any further discussion? Motion by Alder Brunette to hold this while DPW looks into some possibilities. Seconded by Alder Gerlach. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Thanks everyone for your comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep going.
Yes.
Regular business number 3, consideration with possible action on the review and award of the contract pavement 4-21 South Maple Avenue reconstruction. Staff.
Okay, we received these bids yesterday. We tried to email out this morning the summary so that you guys could see that, because we weren't able to get it into the packet. Even though for us this time of year is just kind of a late time to be bidding these things, we still got 5 bidders on it. The bid was very aggressive. The bid was substantially lower than what our estimate was. And as you can see from the bid results, on a project this size of about $1.5 million project, the bids are only $200,000-300,000 apart. So that speaks a lot to you know, how competitive this bid was. On this, we would recommend going to the low responsible bidder, which is DeGroat Incorporated, in the amount of $1,336,138.43.
I love the 43 cents. Any questions, comments from staff? I'm sorry, committee?
Move to approve.
Moved to approve by Alder Burnett, seconded by Alder Gerlach. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. On to number 4, report of actions taken by Department of Public Works. A, granting of licenses. Number 1, sidewalk builder. A, Crete Workex. Boy, that's an interesting name. Workex. B, Della Custom Concrete LLC, and CTC Concrete LLC. We can do this all together and just receive and place on file all as one, or do we need to?
Yes, you can just do them all.
Okay, 2, tree and brush trimmer. A, Rego's Landscaping LLC. Does committee have any questions?
Move to receive and place on file.
Second.
Moved by Alder Gerlach to receive and place on file, seconded by Alder Brunette. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Informational, director's report. Who's going to be the director tonight?
This one I would turn over to Chris just to give a quick summary on where we are with spring pickup. If
Okay.
you care to.
You're muted.
You're still on mute, Chris. You're still muted.
There we go. Sorry about that. But yeah, DPW field activity, services that we're providing. Nothing really exciting in the parking on the parking side, but parking is starting to pick back up. Just FYI, Schreiber Foods we heard is going to start coming back in force downtown, so we're going to see little more activity downtown for parking and maybe some moving around of people. As far as the services, this is the last week of the spring curbside yard waste collection program. Of course, people can bring their yard waste to one of our 2 sites year round. But at the end of the day on Friday, we are done collecting curbside. Like I had mentioned earlier, we are down quite a bit on number of residential properties in the city that we've noted where they had placed yard waste in the street. So that's good. I like I had also mentioned, obvious message is getting out there. Social media does work, whether it's the website, the Facebook page. We have established over the last couple of years a really good interaction and relationship with our public media, where Steve Grenier, myself, Jim, whoever might call and say, hey, we got this going on. What's your news day look like? You want to do a story? Sometimes they bite, sometimes they don't. But if you don't say something or ask the questions, you don't get the answers. So sometimes it takes a while to realize that, hey, communication is the key to success. So we're going to keep at it. We are out starting crack filling and joint sealing on our asphalt streets. So you'll see that. As always, we never stop patching potholes. Roads keep aging as people keep driving on them. Other than that, not a super lot to report. Pretty soon it's going to be time to start looking at what do we need to do for budgeting for 2022. And it's hate to think of that because it's barely 2021, but that's what we do. We plan ahead. Other than that, I can answer any questions that anyone has. Otherwise, that's pretty much all I have as a summary today.
Alder Burnett?
I was going to say, Chris and Mr. Brunette, I just want to commend you and Public Works for adapting to this virtual meeting format. I'm not quite sure how long we're going to be doing this. If this is our last one with each of you, it's been a weird year, and you both have been outstanding through this entire process and connecting the public services. So thank you both.
I have questions.
Alder Gerlach?
Is Director Grenier definitely going to be back on Monday?
That's what we're
I
being
believe
told.
so. Jim probably knows more because he shares an office space at City Hall with him.
Yes, that's what he told us, Alder Gerlach, prior to him leaving, that he planned on being here for half a day all day next Monday through Friday.
Okay. And my other question is, who is the person who's the head of the garbage pickup program?
The direct person, I'm obviously the operations division director, which is a bunch of sections, but our sanitation section leader, as you might remember, Debbie Haynes-Epping, she retired last year. And we brought up one of our existing supervisors into her vacant position, and his name is Dustin McMullen. And he occupies the same office that Debbie did, and I think he's doing a great job. So if you have anything related to sanitation, whether it's brush, recycling, or garbage collection, I'll just let Dustin or myself know.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it for everyone? Okay, I'll just second too that I appreciate staff's good work, all you've done and all you're doing. And our next meeting for INS is scheduled for May 26th of this month and this year. So,
I do believe we need to get a vote on the informational stuff, though.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Okay, let me back up. Motion for to receive and place on file on the report. Public Works?
Alder Burnett, second.
Then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Thought we did that. I went too quick. All right, so I believe we're all done.
An hour on the dot.
All right.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Alder Gerlach, seconded by Alder Brunette. I don't know though. It's too
No.
time
We
here.
can stay for a while.
Yeah. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Take care, everybody.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Everyone.